Hey guys, happy Sunday with Satan. Of course. So how did you guys have a good weekend? Did everything go okay with you guys? Hopefully it did. I'm getting back to people text messaging you guys back. Gustavo, your candles are going. Lupe, you already know what's going on because I already talked to you last night, so. Alright, today, Saints and Serpents in Cornwall, which I really think is interesting, and it kind of goes along with yesterday's, the mermaids and sea goddesses, because, within traditional witchcraft, we don't have the element of fire. Fire is not an element, it's a chthonic force. So it's really not an element as we see it, like earth, air, fire, or earth, air, water, and then we have, the sea, and then we have all these other, just categories of spirits. But I think this would really good go with yesterday's video. I think this will go really good with yesterday's video. I can't talk, I'm getting tongue-tied. I think a cat's got my tongue, and I think it's Eartha. Yeah, I've been on an Eartha kick again. I mean, it's just, she's brilliant. And her words of wisdom for this, yeah, I won't get into it. Anyways, so for Saints and Serpents, I love these stories. They're just beautiful, and there's so much mythology within them, and there's always a core of truth within all of the mythology. So that's why I love it. So there are many stories of the early saints in Cornwall, of whom it is said that there are more of them than there are in heaven. So yeah, these hagiographies are some of the earliest orally transmitted material that we have in Cornwall, and these saints' stories seem to inhabit a supernatural world that is the same at the same time rooted in the local landscape. So it's always about the local landscape. Everything about traditional witchcraft is about what land you are on. So many of the Cornish saints are found only in the Celtic land of Ireland, Wales, and Brittany, and most of these early holy men and women seem to have moved freely between these countries, mainly by sea. So they existed at a period that was the interface between paganism and Christianity, and therefore many of them had strong pagan elements in their stories. Every single saint is a pagan deity, or almost every quote-quote demon, because I do not believe in demons, never seen a demon, never had, I do know that there's evil out there, but I don't, there's no such thing as demons. I mean, let's get real, it's not stupidity. But I just like this, I think this is really interesting. So, where did I go? Sorry, I get distracted very easy. So many of the stories tell of the arrival of the saints in Cornwall, including Saint Pagan, who floated over from Ireland on a milestone and arrived at Zablu. I can't say that. In Cornwall at St. Aya, who floated over on a leaf to St. Ives. That would be pretty nice. Now, it has been suggested that the millstone and the leaf may have in fact been coracle boats that were used during the 5th and 6th centuries to travel the seas, but equally the image may be a symbol of the almost supernatural appearance of these early Celtic Christian missionaries. And we all know what happens to missionaries that go to other countries that try to, convert people. Not good. So, the early Celtic Christian missionaries, appearing to arrive out of the sea. Saint Petroc, who gave his name to Budak Veen in Constantine, who said to have been born in a cask at sea, which makes his birth a miraculous one, perhaps birthed from the sea goddess herself. That would be pretty amazing. I mean, wouldn't you want to be birthed by a goddess? I mean, your own mother is a goddess for carrying you for that long and, pertaining to your life, everything that a mother should do. Now, when many of their saints arrived, often the first thing that they did was to plunge their staff into the ground, whereupon a fresh spring of water would gush forth. Now, Saint Petroc, arriving at Little Petroc near Padstow, did this, and this legend many referred to taking over by early Christian missionaries and hermits of natural springs and holy wells, so beloved and restored by the people. It's sad. It's sad that all these missionaries have to come in and just screw everything up. Leave everybody alone. So sometimes this water seemed to have magical qualities. Now, Saint Oh gosh, Ludvin prayed for water and was rewarded by the appearance of a crystal clear stream. The saint washed his eyes in the sparkling water and dramatically discovered that it enabled him to see microscopic objects. He then drank the water and found that he had possessed a great fluency of speech. Finally, he prayed that all children baptized in the stream would escape the hangman's noose, which proved to be correct, as one Ludvin woman who was later hanged was found to have been born and christened in a neighboring parish. So many of these natural wells and springs were places where the early saints built their cells and chapels. So these included St. Creed Chapel, Uni, St. Levan's Chapel, Jane, St. Clether's, St. Neot's, St. Michael's, or St. Michael. I like Michael, or St. Michael, at Michaelstowe, and St. Ruan's on the Lizard Peninsula. Many of these wells and miraculous healing powers, usually for specific ailments, which is very, very common to go to a well, a natural occurring well. We have one here that is said to be the fountain of youth. The water is always so cold. It's beautiful. So, for example, Chapel Farm well at St. Breward, Castle Hornack well in Madrone, Nancy well at Colon, and Jones Pitcher well in Lewinick were considered good for sore eyes, while St. Levin well at Porth Chapel cured both eyes and toothache. Ooh, I need to go there now. I have a toothache. St. Nun's well at Alternun cured insanity. I need to go there too. Alicia well in St. Buren and St. Purin's well in Pernanzablue. Sorry, I'm butchering those words. Everybody from Cornwall, oh, I'm sorry. We're good for rickets. Now, whilst weekly children were bathed in Menacuttle, a well at St. Austell. Now, Jesus' well in St. Minver was reputed to cure whooping cough, while sickness of all kinds could be cured at Chapel Uni well at Braine. Now, Constantine's well at St. Marin, Dupath well at Collington, Lady well at Mevagissey, and St. Matern's well at Madrone. Now, it is unlikely that people would continue to go to these places for healing over many centuries unless the cure was perceived to work. So, it may be that there were specific minerals in some of the waters that aided particular kinds of healing, but it is more likely that it was a belief of the efficiency of the cures that produced the desired effect. The mind over matter syndrome is well attested in native cultures such as voodoo, while the suggestion by the witch doctor or shaman about the patient's state of health can play a large part in that person's recovery or otherwise. So, now, as well as their association with healing, some of these Celtic saints had a strong affinity with the natural world. So, St. Neot, in particular, was the Cornish equivalent of St. Francis of Assisi, and he provided sanctuary for a fox and a doe who were both being hunted, and that's so sweet. See, this is what we need. We need things to be protected. Oh, it's getting windy. It's going to storm, you guys. Now, when the saints' oxen were stolen one night by the thieves, wild stags came to his cell from the forest and voluntarily offered themselves for yoking at the plough. Now, St. Ruan had an affinity with wolves, and in fact, while in Brittany, he was accused of being one in disguise. I love it. I love these stories. Now, these stories show that the early holy men and women in Celtic Christianity were very much at one with nature, and it should still be that way, and it's not, and may have taken on the role previously fulfilled by the shamans and druids who would become as one with the soul or spirit of the animal world. I love it. I love it. Now, this in turn may even go back as far as the Paleolithic shamans. So this is way before Christianity too. Paleolithic times? Yeah. So the shamans, who would draw the animals on walls or their caves, and but that they hunted. and paint the interaction between the human and the animalistic spirit worlds. I love it. So there is a relatively large amount of material relating to the saints and their interaction with serpents. Serpents are usually represented as troublesome, and may be symbols of the old pagan religion. The serpents are beautiful. They are not troublesome. But the saints do not always kill them to subdue them. In the story of Saint Karna, what the heck? Karnataka, he asked by King Arthur to deal with a serpent which annoyed the country in Cornwall. Now, Karnataka catches it with his stole and leads it like a dog to the court. Now, Arthur's men would have killed it, but Saint Karnataka stopped them and dismissed it alive, charging it to do more harm. Oh, to do no more harm. Okay, there we go. So, Saint Cain, in her story, wow, deals with them by turning them into coils of stone, as it is said. Now, that their remains can sometimes be found in the quarries, where they are termed ammonites. Now, in another story, Saint Samson of Dol killed a serpent in a cave near Goland, but he was notably very anti-pagan, admonishing some people at Trig for dancing around and worshipping a standing stone. So, those people, yeah, not good. Sometimes there is a confusion between the serpent and the mythological dragon, and the words serpent and dragon are used interchangeably. Saint Petroc, had dealings with a dragon, but like Saint Karnataka, he treated it kindly. Now Rosacroc, jeez, you guys are going to get a kick out of this video today, says of him, here we go, his charity was so great that he did not only manifest it towards his even Christians, but also on a very dragon, who being in the desert, wounded in the right eye, lingered 3 days about his cell without doing harm, in hope of help. Now he sprinkled him with water and dust mixed together, and plucking, put the wooden stake with soot in his right eye, diminished cured, dismissed him as cured. Now, Rosacroc seems to get Christianity on one hand and the more primal power of the dragon on the other, but interestingly, he does not treat the dragon as representing evil or the devil. In another version of Petroc's life in the National Library in Paris, retold by Canon Doble in the 1930s, Saint Petroc catches and releases a dragon, a pagan king of West Cornwall, King Tudor, called various serpent and noxious worms in a marshy lake into which he threw criminals. Now when Tudor died, his son forbade the practice to continue, with the result that the serpents are each other, until one was only left, a horrible monster of enormous size who tore to pieces cattle and men in fearful fashion with his savage jaws. Now Petroc caught this dragon serpent with his handkerchief or girdle and led it towards the sea and released it. So we do have animal compassion back then. We do have animal compassion back then too. So now it was suggested to Canon Doble by Athelstan Riley that the Padstow Abi Os represented Petroc's dragon, and that the teaser who dances in front of the os is really Saint Petroc. According to Riley, an encounter between the saint and the dragon took place on May Day, and the treater pool outside Padstow was the original marshy home of the serpent. So yeah, the serpent in the Bible was not ever actually a serpent. It was actually a dragon, a bearded dragon. Did you guys know that? Now, dragons seem to occupy a place very much between the realms, and they do. They come from the other world of mythology and magic, but they exist very much in this world as a legend tells of how a dragon used to steal and eat sheep and cattle around Mill Hill near Port Earth. Now, on the eve of May Day, 1 year, when the dragon was about to claim a sheep, it was attacked by a huge white spotted dog. The dog tore off the tip of the dragon's tail as the sun rose, and the dragon fled towards the sea. Now both dragon and dog seemed to occupy a supernatural world, perhaps the Celtic noon or other world. And the time of the encounter at sunrise, like sunset and twilight, we always considered to be a magical time between the worlds, particularly on this day, which was the eve of the Celtic festival of Beltane. Perhaps the story is a memory of a Beltane celebration in which the dragon represents the winter of god of the waning year, and that would be the Bukadu, the dark side of the darker year. Yeah, we're going into Bukadu season. We're right now where we are in Bukagwitter. And the white dog represents summer, or perhaps the spring goddess. Now, dragons have always been considered to represent paganism in these old tales, while dragon slayers like St. Michael represent the takeover by Christianity. So that's what it was. The snakes were the pagans. St. Michael was trying to drive them out, or whomever did that, whatever saint did it. So in that, or if that is the case, then perhaps the takeover in Cornwall was more harmonious and less conflict-bound than in other places, as the stereotype of the dragon slayer does not seem to easily fit the Cornish stories. So I do believe it was a little easier for some people here in the colonies. I don't know. People were killed, burned at the stake, hung. It was terrible. Now, the depictions of the saints killing dragons has also been interpreted as the early Christian saints using and manipulating the natural energies of the land. If this is true, then perhaps the Cornish stories about the beneficial understanding and use of earth energies by these early holy men and women. They tapped into the sprout of the land, the serpentine energy. Now, in the pre-Christian period, local deities were thought to dwell in the trees and woods, the caves and rocks, the spirit of the springs and the wells. The earth was felt to be alive, and spirits could be found everywhere. And the holy men of the tribe, whom we can perhaps term druids, mediated between this world and the other world. Now, it may well be that the early saints became the inheritors of that tradition, and therefore needed to work with those pagan energies and spirits instead of opposing them. Perhaps these tales of the saints tell of their, encounters with the supernatural forces that were thought to control and govern the universe. And it is these encounters with the other world that have come through in the remaining tales. So, if so, the saints were but the most recent example of a long tradition stretching back to the druids, and before them, the shamans, all mediators between this world and the other world. So, that's interesting. I love that. I do love that. The Saints and the Serpents. It just, there's so much connection. So, I mean, if you guys find, any kind of connection, any kind of, little epiphany within those stories, within these stories, these tales from Cornwall, it's beautiful. So, I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys have a good Sunday with Satan. Or the Serpent. I love you guys with all my heart, all the way from Venus all the way back down. And I will see you guys tomorrow. And please be safe and stay healthy. And just stay healthy for me. So, I love you guys. And I will see you all tomorrow.